Sometimes life doesn't warn you before it pulls the ground from under your feet. The people you trusted drift away. The voices that once supported you go silent. And in that quiet, you realize something uncomfortable. You are standing alone, not because you failed, not because you're weak, but because life is teaching you one of its hardest lessons. Self-reliance is survival. Being ready to survive alone doesn't mean you hate people. It means you've learned not to collapse when they leave. It means you've built strength where comfort used to be, and courage where fear once lived. This is not a speech about isolation. This is a speech about becoming unbreakable, about learning to stand steady when everything familiar disappears, because when you can survive alone, you can face anything. There comes a moment in life when the noise fades and you realize something simple but unsettling. Not everyone who walks with you is meant to stay. People change, circumstances shift, promises dissolve, and the future you imagine quietly rearranges itself without asking for permission. In that moment, you either panic or you begin to understand. Being ready to survive alone isn't about pushing people away. It's about not falling apart when they leave. From an early age, we are taught to depend on approval, on validation, on companionship, on structure. We are taught that strength looks like being surrounded, supported, chosen. And for a long time, that works. One day it doesn't, until the support system cracks, until the phone stops ringing, until the person you leaned on is suddenly unavailable, unwilling, or gone. That's when the truth shows up, uninvited. You discover whether your foundation was built inside you or borrowed from others. Surviving alone doesn't mean choosing isolation. It means choosing readiness. It means knowing that if everything familiar disappears, you won't disappear with it. You'll still wake up, you'll still breathe, you'll still move forward. Even if the path feels unfamiliar beneath your feet, there is a quiet dignity in that kind of strength. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need applause. It just exists. Most people fear being alone because they confuse solitude with emptiness. But solitude isn't empty, it's honest. It removes distractions. It strips away roles you played for others. It forces you to meet yourself without witnesses, and that meeting can be uncomfortable. You hear your own thoughts more clearly. You feel your own fears without backup, but you also discover something else, resilience that was always there, waiting for space to grow. When you learn to survive alone, you stop begging life to be gentle. You stop needing others to rescue you from discomfort. You stop handing your power over in exchange for temporary comfort. You learn how to sit with uncertainty without rushing to escape it. You learn how to endure silence without filling it with noise. You learn how to trust yourself when there's no one else to lean on. There's a difference between being abandoned and being unprepared. Many people aren't hurt by loss itself, but by the shock of realizing they never learned how to stand on their own. They outsourced their stability. They built their sense of worth on external presence. And when that presence vanished, everything collapsed. Being ready to survive alone is insurance against that collapse. It's not pessimism, it's realism. Life doesn't promise consistency. People don't promise permanence. Even the strongest bonds are vulnerable to change. Understanding this doesn't make you cynical, it makes you grounded. You stop expecting guarantees from a world that never offered them. You start building something internal that doesn't depend on circumstances staying comfortable. Self-reliance grows slowly. It's built in small moments no one sees. The nights you handle problems quietly instead of calling someone to fix them. The decisions you make without reassurance. The mornings you get up even when motivation doesn't show up with you. Each moment adds weight to your spine. Each challenge teaches you that you are more capable than you assumed. Being ready to survive alone changes how you approach relationships. You stop clinging, you stop fearing distance, you stop shrinking yourself to be chosen. You bring yourself fully, not because you need someone, but because you want to share life, not escape it. There's a calm confidence in that posture. People feel it, they respect it, even if they don't understand it. You also stop taking things personally in the same way. When someone walks away, you don't immediately assume it's a reflection of your worth. You understand that people are fighting their own battles, following their own paths, and sometimes those paths diverge. You grieve, but you don't crumble. You feel the loss, but you don't lose yourself. Surviving alone requires discipline. Not the loud kind, but the quiet kind. The discipline to keep your promises to yourself, the discipline to face uncomfortable truths instead of avoiding them. The discipline to sit with pain long enough to understand it instead of numbing it. This discipline becomes your anchor when emotions surge and clarity feels distant. There will be days when loneliness shows up anyway. Being ready doesn't mean being immune. It means you know how to navigate it. You recognize loneliness as a visitor, not a verdict. You let it pass through without letting it define you. You learn how to create meaning in your own company. You learn how to enjoy silence without feeling invisible. Strength like this isn't dramatic. It doesn't come from grand speeches or heroic moments. It comes from repetition, from choosing responsibility over excuses, from choosing growth over comfort, from choosing honesty over denial. Over time, these choices shape a version of you that doesn't panic when the ground shifts. Being ready to survive alone also means accepting that help, when it comes, is a gift, not a requirement. You appreciate support without depending on it. You welcome connection without fearing its absence. You understand that the strongest position isn't needing nothing, but needing nothing to function. When life becomes unpredictable, most people rush to control external factors. They try to hold tighter, demand reassurance, force outcomes. But self-reliance shifts your focus inward. You control your response. You regulate your emotions. You adapt. You move forward even when certainty refuses to cooperate. There's freedom in knowing you'll be okay even if things fall apart. It allows you to take risks, to speak honestly, to walk away from situations that diminish you. You're no longer trapped by fear of being alone because you've already learned how to survive there. The world respects people who don't collapse under pressure, not because they're cold, but because they're stable. Stability is rare. It's attractive. It's built, not inherited. And it starts with the willingness to stand alone when necessary. Being ready doesn't mean you expect abandonment. It means you expect change. And instead of resisting it, you prepare for it. You strengthen your inner foundation so external shifts don't shatter you. You become flexible without becoming fragile. There's a quiet peace that comes from knowing you can handle yourself. You stop over-explaining. You stop proving. You stop chasing validation. You move differently. You speak less but mean more. You listen carefully because you're no longer desperate to be heard. Surviving alone teaches you patience. You learn that not every problem needs immediate resolution. Some things need time. Some wounds need space. Some answers arrive only after you stop demanding them. Patience becomes easier when you trust your ability to endure. You also learn responsibility. When there's no one else to blame, you confront yourself honestly. You see your patterns clearly. You take ownership of your choices. This accountability isn't harsh. It's empowering. It reminds you that you are an active participant in your life, not a passive observer. The strongest people aren't those who never struggle. They're the ones who learned how to struggle without falling apart. They learned how to carry their own weight before asking others to carry it for them. They learned how to be whole before trying to be held. Being ready to survive alone doesn't close your heart. It protects it. It ensures that you give from abundance, not fear. When you love freely, not anxiously. When you stay, it's by choice, not dependency. Over time, this readiness becomes a quiet confidence. You stop announcing your plans. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop reacting impulsively. You act deliberately. You move with intention. You understand that real strength doesn't need an audience. There will always be moments when you wish someone were there. That's human. Readiness doesn't erase desire. It just ensures that desire doesn't turn into desperation. You can miss someone without losing yourself. You can want companionship without sacrificing stability. Life will test you, it always does, not to punish you, but to reveal you to yourself. Each test asks the same question in different forms. Can you stand when no one is holding you up? And every time you answer yes, even quietly, you reinforce something powerful within you. Surviving alone teaches you respect for your own endurance. You stop underestimating yourself. You stop assuming you need saving. You realize that the version of you who made it through the hardest days is stronger than the fears you carry today. This readiness isn't something you achieve once and forget. It's a mindset you maintain, a posture you return to. Some days it feels natural, other days it feels heavy, but it's always there, steady, reliable. When you are ready to survive alone, you stop rushing life. You understand that growth isn't linear. Setbacks don't scare you the same way. You've already faced emptiness and discovered it didn't destroy you. You learn how to build routines that support you, how to create structure when chaos appears, how to care for yourself without being told. These skills don't look impressive from the outside, but they make everything else possible. Being ready also means knowing when to rest. Strength isn't constant motion. It's knowing when to pause without quitting, when to breathe without giving up, when to recover without retreating permanently. Over time, you stop fearing the quiet moments. You stop filling every space with distraction. You allow yourself to just exist without performance, without explanation. In those moments, you reconnect with yourself. Surviving alone sharpens your intuition. You become more aware of what feels right and what doesn't. You trust your instincts more because you've learned to listen to them without interference. The world will still be unpredictable. People will still leave. Situations will still change. But you will no longer feel like each change is a threat. It becomes information, something to adjust to, not something to fear. Being ready to survive alone doesn't make you cold. It makes you calm. It doesn't make you distant. It makes you centered. And from that center, you can engage with life fully, honestly, without losing yourself in the process. You become someone who can walk through uncertainty without panic. Someone who can sit with discomfort without escaping. Someone who can stand quietly in their own presence without feeling incomplete. And once you reach that place, life doesn't have the same power over you anymore. It can challenge you, but it can't break you. It can surprise you, but it can't erase you. You carry your stability with you wherever you go. Real strength is rarely loud. It doesn't announce itself when it enters a room. It doesn't demand recognition or reassurance. Most of the time, it develops unnoticed in places where no one is clapping and no one is watching. Strength grows in silence, in repetition, in moments that feel ordinary but carry weight. It's built when you keep going even though no one is checking on you, when you make the right choice without an audience, when you hold yourself together without being praised for it. The world often teaches that strength looks dramatic. Big victories, public resilience, visible confidence. But the strongest transformations usually happen quietly. They happen when you choose restraint over reaction, when you swallow words you could have thrown like weapons, when you walk away without needing the last word, when you keep your integrity intact even when no one would have noticed if you didn't. Quiet strength is forged in private battles, the kind you don't post about, the kind you don't explain to others because they wouldn't understand the weight anyway. It's waking up tired and still showing up. It's carrying disappointment without letting it turn into bitterness. It's continuing to move forward even when progress feels invisible. When no one is watching, your true character is formed. That's when habits are built or broken. That's when discipline either holds or collapses. You learn whether your values are real or just words you repeat when it's convenient. In solitude, there's no performance, no applause, just you and your choices. Strength built quietly lasts longer because it isn't dependent on external validation. It doesn't disappear when encouragement fades. It doesn't weaken when support is withdrawn. It becomes part of how you move through the world, steady and consistent, regardless of who's paying attention. There are seasons where you will feel unseen, where your effort seems to vanish into silence, where no one acknowledges how hard you're trying. Those seasons are not punishment, they are training. They teach you to rely on your own standards instead of external approval. They teach you to respect yourself even when others don't recognize your effort. Quiet strength also teaches patience. You stop needing immediate results to stay committed. You understand that growth is cumulative, that small actions repeated consistently reshape your life over time. You stop quitting just because progress isn't obvious yet. When you build strength in silence, you develop emotional control. You stop reacting impulsively. You pause, you observe, you choose your response instead of being ruled by your emotions. This control doesn't make you distant, it makes you deliberate. There will be moments when anger rises, when frustration pushes against your chest, when disappointment tempts you to lash out or give up. Quiet strength doesn't deny these emotions. It acknowledges them without letting them take control. You feel deeply, but you act wisely. Strength like this is shaped by restraint, not by suppression, but by understanding. You learn when to speak and when silence carries more power. You learn when to engage and when walking away preserves your peace. Over time, you stop wasting energy on battles that don't move you forward. Most people mistake silence for weakness. They assume that if you're not loud, you're not strong. But silence often means you've learned something they haven't yet. It means you don't need to prove yourself constantly. It means your confidence isn't fragile. Quiet strength also shows up in consistency, doing what needs to be done even when motivation is absent, showing up for yourself on days when inspiration doesn't arrive, honoring your commitments, even when no one is enforcing them. Discipline thrives in anonymity. When there's no pressure to perform, only a choice to follow through, this discipline becomes your backbone. It supports you when emotions fluctuate and circumstances shift. There are lessons you only learn when you struggle alone, when there's no one to guide you, when advice runs out, when you have to figure things out through trial and error. These lessons stay with you longer because they were earned, not given. Quiet strength reshapes how you deal with pain. Instead of broadcasting it, you process it. Instead of dramatizing it, you learn from it. You stop letting pain define you and start letting it refine you. This doesn't mean you never ask for help, it means you don't collapse without it. You appreciate support, but you don't depend on it to function. You understand that help is valuable, but self-responsibility is essential when no one is watching. You learn to tell the truth to yourself about your weaknesses, about your fears, about your patterns. This honesty can be uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Without it, growth stalls. Strength grows when you face your flaws without excuses, when you stop blaming circumstances and start adjusting behavior, when you accept responsibility for your reactions, not just your intentions. Quiet strength also changes how you handle success. You stop chasing recognition. You stop needing validation to feel accomplished. You know when you've done well, even if no one else acknowledges it. There's a calm confidence that comes from knowing you've put in the work privately. It doesn't need to be announced. It shows in how you move, how you speak, how you carry yourself under pressure. People may not notice your progress immediately. They may underestimate you. They may assume you're unchanged because you haven't made noise about your growth. But when challenges arise, your preparation shows. Strength built quietly prepares you for pressure. When situations become intense, you don't panic. You've already practiced endurance in silence. You've already learned how to stay composed without reassurance. You become someone who can absorb stress without breaking, someone who doesn't escalate chaos, someone who remains steady when others unravel. Quiet strength also sharpens your focus. You stop being distracted by opinions that don't align with your values. You stop chasing approval from people who don't understand your journey. You learn to move at your own pace, to measure success by alignment, not comparison, to respect your process even when it looks different from others. There will be moments when you feel tempted to quit because no one seems to care. Those moments reveal whether your motivation is external or internal. Quiet strength keeps you going even when recognition never comes. It's built in early mornings and late nights, in repetition, in boredom, in persistence, in showing up when quitting would be easier. You also learn humility. Quiet strength doesn't inflate your ego, it grounds you. It reminds you that growth is ongoing, not a destination. That there's always more to learn, more to refine. This humility makes you more adaptable. You don't resist feedback, you don't assume you know everything. You remain open without being insecure. Strength built quietly also protects your peace. You stop engaging in unnecessary conflict. You stop proving points that don't matter. You choose calm over chaos more often. You become selective with your energy. You invest it where it counts. You stop wasting it on arguments, validation, or distractions. Over time, this strength becomes visible not because you announce it, but because of how you respond under pressure, how you stay composed when things go wrong, how you remain kind without being weak, how you stay firm without being aggressive. People may not know your story. They may not know what you've survived, but they feel your presence, they sense stability, they sense depth. Quiet strength makes you reliable, not flashy but consistent, not dramatic but dependable. And in a world addicted to noise, consistency stands out. You learn to trust yourself more, to rely on your judgment, to stand by your decisions even when they're unpopular. This trust grows because you've tested yourself in silence and survived. Strength like this isn't built through shortcuts. It requires time, it requires discomfort. It requires staying committed when quitting would be unnoticed. And because it's built quietly, it can't be taken away easily. No one can strip you of work they never saw you do. No one can undermine growth they didn't witness forming. This kind of strength doesn't disappear when life changes. It adapts, it adjusts, it holds. You carry it into relationships, into challenges, into uncertainty. You don't demand space, you create it naturally. Quiet strength teaches you that you don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to dominate to be respected. You don't need to prove to be enough. It reminds you that the strongest structures are often hidden beneath the surface, that what holds you up isn't always visible. And once you understand that, you stop performing strength and start embodying it. You stop talking about resilience and start living it. You stop explaining your endurance and start trusting it. When no one is watching, you continue to build. When no one applauds, you continue to grow. When no one notices, you continue to stand. Independence is often misunderstood. People think it means rejecting others, distancing yourself, or pretending you don't need anyone. But real independence is quieter than that. It's not rebellion, it's stability. It's knowing that your sense of peace doesn't collapse when circumstances change or when people move in different directions. Independence is not about standing against the world. It's about standing firmly within yourself. Lasting peace doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from accepting its uncertainty while remaining grounded. When you build independence, you stop expecting the outside world to regulate your inner state. You stop waiting for permission to feel secure. You stop hoping that someone else will make things make sense for you. Instead, you develop an internal balance that holds even when external conditions fluctuate. Many people spend their lives searching for peace in places it cannot live, in relationships that demand constant reassurance, in achievements that need continuous validation, in routines that fall apart the moment something unexpected happens. Independence shifts the search inward. It teaches you that peace is not something you acquire, it's something you cultivate. When you become independent, your emotions stop running the show. You still feel deeply, but you're no longer controlled by every surge of feeling. You learn how to observe emotions without drowning in them. You allow them to exist without letting them dictate your actions. This emotional regulation becomes the foundation of calm. Independence also teaches you clarity. You begin to see situations as they are, not as you wish they would be. You stop romanticizing instability. You stop confusing chaos with passion. You stop mistaking attachment for love. With clarity comes better choices. With better choices comes peace. There's a certain quiet confidence that forms when you know you can handle yourself. You stop needing constant reassurance. You stop asking others to confirm your worth. You stop outsourcing your decisions. This confidence doesn't demand attention. It settles into your posture, your voice, your presence. Lasting peace requires boundaries. Independence gives you the strength to set them without guilt. You no longer over-explain. You no longer apologize for protecting your energy. You understand that boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They allow what aligns and block what destabilizes. Without independence, peace is fragile. It depends on people staying, plans working, outcomes matching expectations. With independence, peace becomes resilient. It bends instead of breaking. It adapts instead of collapsing. You begin to understand that not everything deserves a reaction. Not every conflict requires engagement. Not every opinion needs a response. Independence teaches restraint. It reminds you that your energy is finite and should be spent intentionally. As you grow more independent, you become less reactive to disappointment. You still feel it, but it doesn't shake your core. You don't spiral. You don't self-destruct. You adjust. You recalibrate. You continue. Peace deepens when you stop trying to force life to be fair. Independence allows you to accept reality without bitterness. You stop asking why things happened and start focusing on what you'll do next. This forward movement keeps you grounded. There's freedom in knowing that your happiness isn't hostage to circumstances. You don't need everything to go right to be okay. You don't need people to behave perfectly to stay centered. You don't need certainty to function. Independence reshapes how you experience relationships. You no longer cling. You no longer tolerate inconsistency just to avoid being alone. You choose connection not because you fear solitude, but because you value shared presence. This choice changes everything. You also stop trying to fix people. You understand that everyone has their own path. You offer support without sacrificing yourself. You step back when necessary without resentment. This emotional autonomy preserves your peace. Lasting peace doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means difficulty no longer destabilizes you. Challenges arrive, but they don't hijack your sense of self. You respond with intention rather than impulse. Independence also brings patience. You stop rushing outcomes. You trust timing more. You understand that some things unfold slowly and cannot be forced without consequences. This patience keeps you grounded during uncertainty. As you grow independent, comparison loses its grip. You stop measuring your life against others. You respect your pace. You honor your process. Peace grows when competition fades. You become more selective with your commitments. You stop saying yes out of fear. You stop overloading yourself to prove worth. You protect your time because you understand its value. There's a deep calm that comes from knowing you can walk away if something compromises your stability. Independence gives you that option. You're no longer trapped by fear of loss. You're guided by alignment. You also become more forgiving, not because you excuse harm, but because you no longer carry unnecessary weight. Peace thrives when resentment is released. Independence gives you the strength to let go without needing closure. Over time, you notice that chaos feels louder than it used to. Drama feels heavier. You're less tolerant of emotional turbulence because you've experienced calm. And once you know what peace feels like, you protect it. Independence changes how you approach failure. You don't see it as a verdict, you see it as feedback. You adjust without self-attack. This self-compassion stabilizes you during setbacks. You begin to trust yourself more deeply. Not because you believe you're flawless, but because you know you can adapt. You know you can recover. You know you can learn. Peace becomes a practice, not a destination. Independence supports that practice. It keeps you anchored when emotions rise. It keeps you steady when life shifts. You stop needing constant stimulation. Silence becomes comfortable. Stillness becomes restorative. You learn how to be present without distraction. As independence strengthens, fear loses influence. Not because fear disappears, but because it no longer controls your decisions. You act despite uncertainty. You move forward without guarantees. You realize that peace isn't found in avoidance, it's found in resilience. Independence builds that resilience quietly, consistently. You also become more honest with yourself. You stop pretending things don't bother you. You acknowledge discomfort without dramatizing it. This honesty prevents emotional buildup. Lasting peace requires self-trust. Independence nurtures that trust through experience. Every challenge you handle reinforces it. Every boundary you hold strengthens it. You become someone who doesn't need to escape life to feel okay. You engage fully, knowing you can handle whatever arises. Your presence becomes calmer, your reactions slower, your decisions clearer. Others may notice, but you don't need them to. Independence doesn't isolate you, it centers you. It allows you to connect without losing yourself, to love without fear, to stand firm without rigidity. Peace settles in when you stop fighting who you are and start supporting yourself honestly. Independence gives you the structure to do that. You stop seeking constant reassurance from the world. You carry reassurance within you. Life continues to shift. People continue to change. Uncertainty remains, but your inner ground stays steady. And from that steadiness, peace becomes less of a moment and more of a way you move through everything.